ChatGPT right now is most likely telling you what you want to hear because you're searching on your account. But if you're going to use ChatGPT, or really any other AI, you need to do it on an incognito account because otherwise it's going to be slanted and biased towards you. It knows you're a contractor. It knows the name of your company. All of a sudden they're giving me this look of fear and shock, right? And I do the quick search on my phone. I said, yep, not showing up. And my account represents what the majority of your customers are also seeing.
Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business.
And it has been such a journey. We have episode 300 for you today, and I'm really excited. I think I'm doing this episode more for me than for you guys because this is one of my favorite people to listen to. But there's a lot of challenges that we're all facing. You know, we've done a lot of episodes around AI, the changes that are happening in the industry in terms of AI. And so I wanted to bring back Marcus Sheridan to have this conversation with me, man. Thanks for coming back on.
First off, congratulations to you, 300.
Yeah, man.
That's pretty impressive. And it's a big deal. That means you're in the top 1% of all podcasts if you make it to 300. So that's a great testament of you, Jim, the value you bring to the world. So I'm grateful to have gotten to know you a little bit over the last, couple of years. And I'm glad we can have this chat today because the stuff is getting more and more real every single day. And just when I think oh, that's huge news, something else comes out. I'm like, holy cow, it's like, I have to be honest though, there is I'm feeling quite a bit of satisfaction right now, seeing some of the changes that are happening, that are being forced upon contractors that I've been calling for a while. And so I'm sure we'll get into that, but there's some really interesting changes.
You have definitely been calling these for years. And I think that there's a little bit of opportunity meets preparation here. Mm-hmm. The way that you framed your marketing, from the pool company on in the and then as you expressed in the they ask you answer book. I mean that's become the foundation of the conversation. And so what is it in the AI world that is coming to fruition that you have been expressing for years now? All
right. Yeah. So there's a lot of places we can go with this. Let me just say, if you're listening to this right now, when you think about AI, let me just suggest that you look at it from two perspectives. There's really two major sides of the AI coin and what it means to your business. Number one, it's how do I use AI to grow my company? That's number one. Number two, how do I make sure AI recommends my company? All right. So that's side two. So we've got side one. How do I use it? Side two, how do I make sure it loves me, it recommends me? Now, I spend a high majority of my time on the latter, which is how do you make sure when you are searching or a customer searching, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, whatever it is, that you're showing up. Now, here's where you got to be careful. There's a lot of SEO companies that are being lazy, that are being antiquated of thought, and will try to convince you that Google's not being affected, that SEO hasn't been affected, that AEO is the same thing is the exact same thing as SEO. And let me tell you definitively, that is absolutely not the case. All of this stuff is changing. Just the other day, I was talking to a couple of roofers at a contract. True story, Jim. At a conference, excuse me. And I said, how are you guys doing with your AI visibility? They said, oh, ChatGPT loves us. I said, really? Tell me about that. Yeah. We've done some searches. When you search best roofer, such and such town, our town, we get recommended. I said, well, that's great. I wonder if my ChatGPT would recommend you. And they gave me this look like, what do you mean? I said, ChatGPT right now is most likely telling you what you want to hear because you're searching on your account. But if you're going to use ChatGPT, or really any other AI, you need to do it on an incognito account because otherwise it's going to be slanted and biased towards you. It knows your contractor. It knows the name of your company. All of a sudden they're giving me this look of fear and shock, right? And I do the quick search on my phone. I said, yep, not showing up. And my account represents what the majority of your customers are also seeing. And that's because today there's no such thing as ranking anymore. There's no such thing as page one. These things are gone. Now, I have polled, Jim, every single audience. And for those that don't know me, I speak full-time around the world. This is what I do. I also own a home contracting company. We install in-ground swimming pools is what we do. I have some other businesses too. I am living this. I'm in the sandbox every single day. I understand exactly what you're going through. And I can tell you, I have polled every single audience for the last 18 months. And I've asked this singular question. How many of you in the room are now using ChatGPT or another AI platform more than you're using Google as your preferred means of search? Now, when I started this, the numbers were around 30-35%. Today, consistently in 2026, what I'm seeing is right around 70-75% of the room. Now, you tell me, world, where's this going? And that's why when someone says, this is not affecting Google, I'm like, what crack are you smoking? Like, really, what? Where does this thought come from? I am using Google less than I've ever used it. That alone affects Google usage. Jim, I am willing to go out on a limb here and say that you're using legacy Google less than you've ever used it before because you're finding a replacement that's a better experience. The future of the way we search, without question, definitively is not what we've done the last 20 years, which is type something into a little box and it shows us a bunch of blue links that may or may not be the answer. In fact, we don't even know if it's the right answer. We don't even know if it's a sponsored answer or if it's an organic answer, which that's been 2 decades worth of search. Because today, suddenly people are realizing I can do a search on a platform that knows me. It gives me a recommendation specifically to me. Not only will it give me that recommendation, but for the first time in literally centuries, it's giving me, or decades better stated, it's giving me a justification of my answer. How many times, if you're listening to this, have you ever gone to Google and said to it, why did you just give me that answer? And it explained to you why it gave you that answer. It's never done it in the history of the world. And so now they can get a justification. And where it really gets fascinating is not only can they get a justification of the recommendation, but they get an action if they want it. It will take a further action. And this is where it gets wild. But oh, wait, there's more. Because if anybody knows me, Jim, they know I've been talking about this pricing transparency conversation for years. Now, people skew this all the time because they say, Marcus says that you should put your prices on your website. You know, I've actually never said that before. What I teach is that you should address the fundamental question that all buyers have, which is roughly, what's this going to cost? Every single buyer wants to know that. They want to understand that. And if you don't address that, they go to somebody that does. Now, for years, I thought that eventually contractors would wake up to this and say, you get way more leads if you just lean into this. If you're willing to explain value, if you're willing to explain what drives a roof up, what drives the cost of a roof down, and why some contractors are expensive and why some contractors are cheap. Nope, that's not what forced it. What is forcing it is now something that happened in the last 45-ish days, which is if you're listening to this right now, I'd make a little suggestion to you that you go to your little Google box and you type in roofers near me. Just do that. Roofers near me, because suddenly you're going to see something in the upper left-hand corner of the page that you haven't ever seen, which is this little button that says online estimate. That's correct. Today, Google is trying to give you the immediate answer in the form of an online estimate. And they're rewarding the companies that are willing to give an online estimate. Oh, shocker. Here's what I've been calling for years. Now, how do you do this the right way? Well, just for the context of this conversation, one of the other companies that I have, a couple that I'm going to mention just to because I say stuff and I want people to know I've got like a lot of data, Jim, to back it up. I'm just not like making stuff up. So I have a software company called AI Trust Signals. And what it does, it measures how likely AI is to recommend you. And that is based on, in this case, 19 specific trust signals that AI uses to say, hey, that's a company that is worthy of a recommendation over another company. Like, what makes them decide if somebody searches best roofer near me, what makes them decide like which roofers to choose in this moment, okay? Now, what they're using is trust signals. And there's a lot of signals that dictate whether or not they recommend you, but some are weighted more than others. I can tell you, here's what's happening within the home improvement space. AI is quickly realizing that the two most important things that homeowners want to find when they're trying to vet contractors is reviews and general pricing information slash estimates. And so here's where we're headed, Jim. And this is the part that is going to force everyone into this more transparent way of communicating with their customers online. What we're now seeing is not only does Google have this online estimate feature where they're rewarding the companies that have an estimator, right? But we're also seeing AI in general, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, giving more weight to the companies that are showing estimators on their site that allow someone to get a price range. So what does this mean to you as a contractor? It means that, let's say all things are equal. You've had good reviews, your competitor has good reviews, and the homeowner says to ChatGPT, tell me though which one is the best in your opinion. ChatGPT is going to choose the one that has more pricing transparency. And if this is going to domino to a place where very quickly, and I say that very quickly as in like 12 to 18 months, if you don't have an estimator on your website, you will not be recommended in the home improvement space by AI. Let me repeat that. You will not be recommended by AI if you don't have an estimator on your website. Now, another reason why I know this is because I built a software. Once I saw where this trend was going, I said, I was the first manufacturer / contractor in the swimming pool space to have a pricing estimator. I saw that quickly it generated 100 to 200 leads a day for my company. Now, it's not going to do that for your company because you're probably going to get the traffic that I got, but that's what we got. Now, what we do know based on the data, because now I've got 1,000 contractors using this tool, is that generally when you as a contractor add a pricing estimator to your website, you get 3x the organic leads that you were getting before. Okay, 3x. So if you're getting 5 organic leads a week, you're probably going to get about 15 now. And you're going to 3 to 5x your paid ad conversions if they're landing on the estimator. So assuming the estimator is built properly, assuming you're showing it properly, assuming it's integrated into your campaigns, you have a total lead explosion. And what's wild to me, if I might just be a little bit, can I talk about other estimators in the market, like competitors and stuff for a second, Jim? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, for sure.
I just don't know your sponsors and stuff. I don't want to upset anybody. But a lot of the estimators that are out there that contractors are using, like let's say the Roofles of the world. Roofle's a fine product, but you're going to spend $500 to $700 a month on it, right? You take a tool like Price Guide. We've done the tests. The conversions, it's an estimator. The conversions are through the roof. We've had people that have converted over to it have told us it performed the same, if not better. And the tool costs about $30 a month. That's $360 a year. You see, the idea that anybody is paying, $500, $700, $800, $1,000 on software, basic software, in 2026 and beyond, I just don't think that's really, that's not going to be happening with AI. So I try to create something that every contractor could add to their website that immediately started generating leads. And so this has been the biggest shift. And here's a couple things that you need to do. Number one, you need to have a pricing page on your website. And this pricing page really dives into all the factors that drive cost up and drive cost down, and what makes some contractors expensive and what makes some contractors cheap, and what defines value in your space. Okay. And that's not going to be short. That should be 1,500 words or so. I mean, there's a lot of meat on that bone. You're really teaching, you're going to talk about things like financing. You might talk about historical pricing trends, right? You might talk about, you might answer the question, and you should answer the question, is it really worth it? You might show some projects like visuals and show ranges for those projects. You might talk about different tiers in the industry and how it works, like a good, better, best tier, which is typically the case, right? These are the things that you should be talking about on a pricing page. 80% of that pricing page, you're teaching them how value is defined in the industry. In this case, let's say one for residential roofing you have and one for commercial roofing, because they should be separate pages. They shouldn't be the same thing because they're separate services, separate products, essentially, okay? You should do that for every major product or service that you offer as a company. Now, once you do that in the form of text, you also want to do that in the form of video, right? So you want to have a video that fully explains how pricing and value work in your industry. And again, don't talk about yourself the whole time. That's actually not the goal. The goal is to educate them about the industry. And even if they don't go with you, they say, my goodness, that was so stinking helpful. Now I understand what drives value when it comes to, putting a new roof on my house. And then the highest level is that estimator. Now, the big mistake I'm seeing with estimators, and I'm going to shut up for a second, because sorry for this diatribe. There's so much happening right now. It's just incredible, Jim. The big mistake we're seeing with estimators, and I see a lot of companies screwing this up right now, is the way Google works and the way LLMs work is they want labels to quickly parse content and web pages to understand what they're looking at. These labels are what's referred to as schema. Now, most of these agencies have not adjusted the way they build website pages so as to make sure there's proper schema on these pages. Now, for example, if you have an online estimator, that estimator, the code that it was built with that you put on your site should have schema that is essentially a label telling, in this case, Google and AI, hey, this is an online estimator. Now, when somebody clicks on online estimate, roofers near me, your tool, that page is going to come up because it was properly indexed. It's properly showing. I can't tell you how many times, Jim, I've seen this as a problem. That's why when somebody builds an estimator within Price Guide, okay, the code that it gives you has schema built into it automatically. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I know I say schema, and most people listening to this don't even know what that means yet. But unfortunately, because of the way AI works, you're going to have to learn that. There's going to be a lot of new things that you're going to learn. And by the way, that was like 5% of where this is headed just now. What I just said, 5%. I got to say one last thing. And I really do promise, Jim, I'm going to show up. Shut up. I'm going to show up too. And that is this. I just published the most extensive book ever written on pricing transparency within the home improvement space. And I'm sure we'll put the link in the show notes. You can find the book at questionfirstgroup.com, because that's my sales training company, Question First. Excuse me. You can find it at priceguide.ai. It's at Price Guide. Sorry. And at priceguide.ai, if you just click under books, you'll see this one for home improvement and where pricing is going. And it talks about where we're headed with this. So where we've been, where we are, where we're headed. And what I just described is like small potatoes compared to where we're going to be. By the way, that book's free. Anybody can download it for nothing. I mean, it's yours. I just want you to have it because I want you as a contractor to be prepared. You are my brethren and sistren. I want you to be prepared for what's happening in the world. This is my way to do it. And this conversation is just getting started. Okay, I'm officially shutting up for a break.
There's so much going on, and there's so much to unpack there. And I don't know if everyone fully understands the stakes, right? I think that that they're going, well, yeah, ChatGPT is starting to show my stuff or not show me, right? And people are like, as you said, everyone is using an LLM now to search maybe it's ChatGPT, but now it could be Gemini, it could be Claude, it could be. And then we're moving on to, we have entered the age of the agentic agent, where they're actually going out and
that's a whole other conversation
work.
we got to have.
That's right. So there's a lot to unpack here as we start going on. But one of the things I've said over the years, Marcus, is that Google only knows how to read, right? And what you pointed out about that online estimate button on Google, after the first time I heard you say that, I went to Google. I'm like, where is this button? I have to find this button, and I found it. It hadn't shown up in roofing searches yet. But I saw it in a plumbing search, and I said, what is this button doing? Right? I want to reverse engineer what this button is doing, and what that button did is it just revised their search term into a long tail search term into online estimate for.
Yeah, roofer near me,
whatever it was.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And so this is the beginning, right? The way that I like to describe it is, first, Google's goal has always been to provide the searcher with the best user experience. That's it. Like, it's at a very simplistic level.
That's right.
And so the reason that the LLMs have become a more used product for searching is because they're a better experience.
They are. That's why I like this whole idea of specific answer with justification, with action that can follow it, to your point with the agentic search. Speaking of agentic search, there's just so much of this. I don't know if anybody's seen, but Google's been experimenting recently with what's called Have AI Check Prices. And if you haven't done this yet, if you haven't seen it yet, it's going to blow your mind once you see it the first time. In fact, your company might have been contacted by Google's AI to get this information. So what happens is, somebody does, like another near me search, plumber near me, roofer near me, whatever. A little button pops up on the screen that says Have AI Check Prices. You're like, what's that? As soon as you click on that button, what happens is it turns into essentially what might be called a self-service tool. So Google asks you a series of questions about your project. And in the course of getting that, it collects your data, and then it says to you, okay, now that I understand your project, I will reach out to contractors near you, and I will get back to you with an answer within the next couple of days. Okay. And so it's just really wild. So I did this, and I said, hey, I need a new faucet. I kid you not, it gets back to me. It was like 36 hours later, something like that. And it said, hey, Marcus, here's the company we recommend. In this case, it was a company called The Drain Doctor. It said they are available for this repair immediately, but they did not give us an online estimate. Isn't that interesting? So there's so many things happening there. Now, both of these things, the online estimate feature, this Have AI Check Prices feature, it is all, to your point, Jim, a precursor to the thing that is just utterly going to shock the industry. It's going to send shock waves through the industry, which is agentic-based search. And the way you have to see this, the way that this is really going to start is, in not too distant future, probably within the next 3 to 6 months, people will all start to learn about this capability, which is called agentic search. Now, right now, this exists to a smaller degree, but soon it's going to work like this. You're going to have your agent that does all your vetting for you, let's say, and you're going to say as the homeowner, okay, I want you to go, I need a new roof, and we'll call the agent Sam. Hey, Sam, I need a new, and you're probably going to do this with a voice command. You might even do it on your Apple Watch. You might do it just into your Alexa, whatever, but you're just going to probably do it with voice. And you're going to say, hey, Sam, we're going to need a new roof. I want you to find the best roofer near us. I want you to come back with a couple of estimates in your recommendation. And so then Sam now does all the legwork. Sam comes back to the homeowner and says, okay, and by the way, when I say comes back to like at most 15 minutes of research here, right? But for a homeowner, that would have been hours worth of research, right? So 15 minutes later, it's waiting for the homeowner whenever the homeowner is ready to see what the results were. And Sam says, okay, I've reviewed 35 local contractors. I have looked at every review they've ever received online. I've given you a review score across all of their platforms. Here's a general reputation graph of the things that people like and don't like about them, some of the most common complaints, and the things that they are praising them for. Based on this and some other content that I saw, I came up with 5 companies that I wanted to recommend. But of those 5, only 3 of them had estimators on their site. So I went ahead and did the estimators based on the parameters you gave me earlier. And from those estimates that I received real time, I'm going to recommend to you 2. Here are their 2 companies. Here are their 2 estimates that they gave me, price ranges. What would you like me to do next? If you would like, I can go ahead and set the appointment now. Now, that will be happening in 2026.
Roofers, let's get real. You're great at building roofs, but are you great at building a steady stream of leads? That's where Job Nimbus Marketing comes in. They know the roofing industry inside and out, and they'll help you dominate Google, Facebook, reputation management, and everything in between. If you want more quality leads, more booked jobs, and more growth, visit the link in the description or the sponsors page on the Roofing Success Podcast website. If you and your team aren't trained on AI yet, you're already falling behind. Competitors using AI are generating more leads, closing jobs faster, and running leaner. The AI roofing revolution gives your team the training to implement AI so you stay ahead, not scramble to catch up. Don't wait until you're losing. Get trained now at the link in the description or the sponsors page of the Roofing Success Podcast website.
So you're going to start to see this. This is why in the future, when it comes to website traffic, you're going to have 2 fundamental forms of website traffic. And I can pretty much guarantee you, your web company has not told you this yet. Your first one is human visitors. Your second one is non-human representatives or agents. So these agents are going to be on your site, and these humans are going to be on your site. Now, for a foreseeable season, there's going to be a lot more humans coming to your website. But then it's going to start to shift. And then eventually, the majority of people coming to your website are not people at all, but they're those agents representing those people that are doing their work. Now, you might say to yourself right now, first of all, this sounds crazy. You can say that, but that's where we're headed. And so you might as well just get over the it sounds crazy part. Because what we know is that humans will choose the least path of resistance. Fundamentally, we are lazy. And so if we know we can get better information than we currently get and do less work than we currently do, guess what? That's what we're going to do. We don't want to click on 20 blue links if we can get the one answer that we're looking for. We don't want to vet 15 websites if we don't have to. Somebody said to me today, as I was trying to really describe this in detail in a post, as a matter of fact, Jim, somebody on LinkedIn, which by the way, if you're not following me on LinkedIn, you should be, folks, because I'm a dang good follow. Somebody says to me, I see what you're saying about how there's going to be 2 types of visitors to your website in the future, Marcus, and there's going to be this agent-based search, and they're going to do all this for the homeowner. But I still think the homeowner is always going to want to vet the website in the end. I said, for a season, but not always. But not always. Because I can tell you what will happen is you have to look at this like a coworker, okay? Have you ever had a coworker that you were managing that at first you said, I want you to run everything by me before you spend that money, before you make that decision. And then you said, I don't need you to run that by me anymore unless it's above a certain threshold. And then eventually you said, because you trust the person so much, just do whatever I trust you. And if it's something major, let me know. Well, guess what? That's exactly how you're going to approach your AI. Your AI agent, you're gonna refer to it as a he or a she. I'm not saying that's good or bad. You're just going to naturally, it just comes up, right? You're going to give it a name. You're like many people going to develop some type of dependency on it. I'm not saying psychologically per se, but you're going to develop a dependency on it. It's going to be a core part of your life. If you think you're connected with your phone, you have no idea. You have no idea what is coming your way and what's coming the way of the customer, what's coming the way of the homeowner. Now, listen, don't get mad at me for the stuff that I'm saying right now. If you're annoyed by this, well, just get annoyed with the future, but don't get annoyed at me, because what I've learned is to not allow my personal opinions to screw up smart business decisions. So I'm not sitting here saying, this is fantastic. This is wonderful. Everything about this is beautiful, because I don't think everything about this is beautiful. I do think a lot of things are potentially quite abundant in the future. I do think that this is going to lead to the cure of a lot of disease, and it's going to be the key to health longevity and to the economy and to many of the world's problems. Yes, and I also believe we're going to go through a hell of a period of time that's going to be difficult with job loss and things like that until it reshuffles, and then all of a sudden we're going to come to a place of abundance. That's where I'm coming from. So, I see the pros and the cons with this, but as a business owner right now, it is your job to make sure that you are skating where the puck is going, not where the puck is. That's where it's going. And this is where it is going. And let me just say this too, Jim. Right now, there's a ton of contractors listening to this, spending thousands a month on Google ads, on paid ads in general. But let's just look at Google ads for a second. What happens when the whole world stops using legacy Google? What happens when all of your customers no longer see those ads? What happens when you can't just quickly replace those ads by paying for them on another platform? Because there's a pretty good chance you won't be able to just pay for them on another platform. Are you in a position to be able to make up for the lead loss and therefore the revenue lost? I was just talking to a company. I've talked to a lot of companies on this, and the average number I get for home improvement is somewhere between 10 to 35% of revenues from Google Ads. Okay, 10 to 35% of revenues from Google Ads. So you're just going to say, well, that's going to be gone in probably 18 to 24 months. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Like, I'm not living in that world, bro. Everything is about getting in front of it right now. And we have to find ways to make sure, this is why we've got to be obsessed about our AI visibility. Is AI recommending us? And let me just say one thing about AI visibility, which is wild. As somebody that has been in this game so much, Jim, that a big part in the past of if you ranked on Google was this thing called domain authority, right? And you had to have a website, it had to be older, it had to have a lot of links coming into it, yada, yada, yada. Just the other day, I produced a piece of content, somebody on my team did, for one of my businesses. And that article created a lead in LLM 3 days later. We have the direct link tie back to that article. And so how does an LLM work? It doesn't care about domain authority. It doesn't really care. What it cares about is this the best, most specific answer? Could I find it very easily? Do I trust this company? Are they verifiable? These are the types of things that LLMs like a ChatGPT is looking for. So that in and of itself is quite interesting, because now, instead of, if you're a new roofer, it's never been a better opportunity for you to gain market share quickly than right now. Whereas in the past, you might say, I'm competing against these Goliaths, that they have this incredible domain authority, and there's no way that I can like like match up against them. Nope, you actually can. And so it's the equalizer in many ways. It's wild, Jim. It's wild.
Can I give you an example of that, of a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, Tim
Please.
Brown, right? He launched Owl Roofing, and I was doing a coaching session in the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance, and one of the members said, "What the heck is going on? How did Tim get his company that's been around for less than 2 months showing up in the LLMs? Is it some secret trick? Did he do some SEO magic?" No, he just built a website that the LLMs can read. Right? And
Yes.
a lot of the things are the foundation. The LLMs in the beginning, and what they're doing now, they've used a lot of the fundamental SEO strategies.
That's right.
It's where they're grabbing their information from. Oh, is this company? Does it have good citations around the web? Is it listed? Do we see it everywhere? Does it have good reviews? Does it have good content on its website? And so all of those things that created that great SEO experience, that's the first thing that happened with the LLMs. But now, to your point, is they've read all that now, right? And so they've now, it's like, oh, well, we'll just continue looking for good answers. So if you can come up with a good answer on your website, the website, how long do you feel the website is going to be the source of information for the LLMs? This is,
well, I think
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if we're going to find some type of weird replacement for websites. I think the websites in the future are going to be very different, because as the shift becomes more win the trust and communicate effectively with LLMs, well, look at what changes then, okay? You stop caring about, what's the color of the CTA button, right? You stop caring so much about conversion rate optimization, and maybe you're not doing StoryBrand anymore, which, by the way, I love StoryBrand, right? But the messaging doesn't matter nearly as much. It's now becoming like, just at that point, it ain't about a bunch of necessarily like create this beautiful experience on the site. It's really just about giving information in a way that the AI can immediately consume it and take action on it. And that's the other caveat. Taking action is the part that's going to be a new science. So for example, it's like there's going to be this whole arena that is A to A, agent to agent communication. So the other sides of this, Jim, that contractors don't understand, and you will understand this, is that you also will have an agent. So just like the homeowner will have an agent, you'll have an agent or multiple agents. So just like you might have an agent that's handling chat on your site, you might have an agent that's making phone calls, you might have an agent that is communicating directly with the homeowner's agent on the site, and they're going back with a Q&A. Now, how do you think that's going to go if the homeowner agent says to your agent, so can you give me a general estimate of what most of your projects cost? And the business agent says, yeah, I can't do that, but if we come out to your house, I can certainly give you one at that time. Even the AI agent will get annoyed and say, yeah, screw you, I'm out. Right. And that's what's going to be like wild is there's going to be agent to agent communication. And what you're going to have to also understand is that in order for agents to come to your site and take action, now there's this new arena of website design and UX that wasn't necessarily there before. And so suddenly there's technical things like APIs that you didn't have to consider in the past, that now in MCPs, these are words that we didn't use before, that were not fundamental to web UX, but now it's going to become that. Not today, not tomorrow, but very much so in the coming 24 months. The context of which I'm speaking to everybody is within the next 18 to 24 months, just so everybody is clear on this. And you can't really project longer than 3 years at this point for business. I think it's primarily impossible to do. I don't know what's beyond 3 years. I don't think anybody does. And of course, I am doing my best guess. But I've made a lot of guesses over the years, predictions, and I've done quite well. And I've been known to do really, really well with this stuff. And I try not to speculate on things that I don't have a high confidence level in. I do, one thing I do very, very well, Jim, is understanding patterns, and you see the patterns enough. And then you say, here's a pattern, and here's how the pattern continues, extends out from here. So this is what you could expect to see. And so one thing that I'm worried about with a lot of people that are listening is a lot of these folks are just so aloof to what's going on, is they're just leaving it up to their agency right now to keep them in the loop. And truth be told, a lot of these agencies are not doing, they're not thinking like a hook. And they're not approaching it from that, perspective. Like my swimming pool company works with Hook. And I don't think I've told that to most people. And that's because Tim is pushing the envelope, to your point. Him and his team's pushing the envelope when it comes to things like AI visibility, and they're willing to experiment, knowing that some of the stuff's not going to work, but a lot of it's going to stick and a lot of it's going to work, and then we're going to figure it out as we go. And you've got to have the agency right now. Like, say how your agency's good. Number one, they're not saying SEO and AEO are the exact same thing, right? They're saying, sure, there's a ton of overlap, but there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of different things that you now have to do. They're really teaching you about how you're going to have to evolve things. They're trying to prepare you for AI. They want you to use AI. They're not telling you to not use it. They're not downplaying it. In fact, they know that, you can't talk about it enough right now in the context of how it's going to affect our businesses. So I really hope that, they're talking to you about like schema. They're putting schema on every major page of your website. They're doing things like, hey, we now have a last updated icon on every major article of the site, so the AI knows that it's less than a year old. Right? Because that didn't matter before. That matters now. Oh, by the way, we've gone into every article on the site, and we've created a TLDR summary at the top of each one, because that is the best methodology at this point. Before the main post, we have a summary post. That's because AI summaries, AI answers, and AI platforms want that. You see what I'm saying? Like, this is the stuff that your agency should be talking to you about. If they're not, we have a problem, my friends. And I'm worried for you.
So we've covered how important price is, which you've been preaching for years. AI visibility, right? Getting the pricing guide up, having AI visibility. Check out AI trust signals to get an idea of where
you'll get a score,
that's happening. Get a score, yeah. And the other thing that I've been talking to people a lot about recently, though, and I'd love your thoughts on, is where does the human aspect come in? I know in Endless Customers, you talk about the 4 pillars, and it really feels like, there's going to be, even if our agents are talking in the background and things like that, there's going to be this need for human connection. And we don't need to research the web and read all the websites anymore. But where does that human connection overlap into where AI is going?
Yeah, and listen, one thing that might surprise a lot of people, and you see, when you become a, quote, let's just call it thought leader, it's not a better word for it, right? There's certain types of thought leaders that they state their beliefs and their doctrine, and they marry that doctrine, and then they refuse to change their doctrine because they see that's my identity. Whereas the way I roll is I'm just not married to anything that I've ever said. What I mean by that is I'm ready to change at a moment's notice if I feel like there's been a shift. if I feel like it's going to happen. So for example, whereas, in 2017, you could dominate the internet if you did They Ask You Answer, just like I did it with River Pools. I didn't do social media. I really didn't even do YouTube at the time. I just produced great content on my own website, and that was it. I couldn't do that in 2026 and, become the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world like I did starting in 2000. By 2011, I was the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world. You know what I mean? I couldn't do that today. So I'm not going to sit there and say it works exactly the same. Now, the principles overall have not actually changed, but the platforms are always going to change. And we've got to make sure that we evolve with the platforms. Now, what we said in Endless Customers, and for those that aren't aware, that's I released that book, third edition of They Ask You Answers, called Endless Customers, and came out last year. And of course, it talks a lot about AI, and a lot of stuff I wrote in there has already proven to be true. And there's 4 pillars in there of a known and trusted brand. Say what others aren't willing to say online. That's number 1. 2, show with video what others aren't willing to show. 3, sell in a way others aren't willing to sell. And 4, be more human than others are willing to be. Okay, to your point, what you just said. Now, I think the be more human part is actually very, very fundamental. And to a degree, it will stay that way, but potentially not so much on your website. And what I mean by that is currently on your website, yes. For the next year, yes. I'm not sure after 2 years, once search primarily becomes agent-based, that's when I'm not sure about the need for the human component as strongly on the website. But listen, you should still do it, because the 10 to 20% that are not using agents in 3 years, that are doing the manual stuff themselves because they want it the old-fashioned way, we want to crush those. We want to stand out. And this is where it gets interesting. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say the human component is always going to matter most. No, not necessarily. Now, when you get to the sales process and that interpersonal, that's going to become a big deal potentially. But there's also going to be some that will revolutionize the industry with what would be a very different type of sales process. And I'm happy to talk about that at some point today, because I think that's going to get, really interesting as well. But here's one thing I would say to this. Most websites that have produced content in the past are losing traffic as we speak. The reason for this is because when somebody goes to Google now, 70% of all searches into no click at all. So they're not even clicking on a website. So whereas before River Pools was getting, almost 1 million visitors a month, because we were getting top of funnel traffic, middle of funnel traffic, bottom of the funnel traffic, all the traffic, we were just dominating all the long tail, short tail phrases. We were crushing for it, Jim. Now, we're not getting nearly as many of those because they're getting the answer right there on Google. They're getting the answer from ChatGPT. So I'm not going to lie to you and say, River Pools traffic is better than it's ever been. No, it's actually going down as we speak, as most websites are. HubSpot's website traffic is going down as we speak, right? So, that's just where we're going. But do you know what's not going down? Do you know what's actually going up in traffic? Is YouTube. So while websites are going down in traffic, YouTube now is going up in traffic. And there's a couple different reasons for this, but YouTube has only been benefited by AI in terms of people using YouTube. And so YouTube is going to arguably become more important than your website in the future. Arguably, especially when it comes to the human connection side of things. And so you don't want to sleep on video, and you certainly don't want to sleep on YouTube, and you want to be building on YouTube as much as you can. And it's sad to me because, when it comes to our world of home improvement, it's like every single job is a beautiful story or stories that you could tell, you should tell, but most aren't telling. And every single person has a camera in their pocket right now that's better than any camera that Hollywood had 20 years ago. And yet they say, I just don't know if I have the right technology. It's like, what the heck are you talking about, dude? It's like you've never been more equipped just to walk around a job site every single day and say, let me tell you about what you're seeing here on this job site. Let me tell you why the homeowner did this. Let me tell you why they chose this. A lot of people have been asking us this. Let me give you an example right here at the job site, whatever that thing is. So you got to start thinking a lot more like a media company. And I do think human connection is really going to be incredibly important, but to certain people. There's going to be a group of people that are all going to be all about the feels. Like, I want to feel right with you here in my soul. And there's going to be another group of people that's like, I just want to be right, like logically, and I don't really care about the rest, and my agent's going to do all the work. And you're going to have to find a way to make them both happy. Just like today, some people really want to watch a video. Some people want to, read an article. Okay, you got to make them both happy. You do both ways. And I think that's absolutely where we are headed.
Yeah. And I've had this discussion recently a lot where it's like, I think the representatives that have contact with the human, the job site supervisors, even the roofing salesperson, if they do end up, because we're doing virtual sales now too, but like if someone shows up at your kitchen table, that's where a lot of it, the customer service interaction is where that human is going to be very impactful.
Now, there's something very interesting about this, though, and we've got to broach it. Here's my commitment to you, listener, right now, that I'm going to say the thing that everybody tends to shy away from and doesn't want to admit. I care more about being honest always, so that we're prepared, than I do about protecting any single person's feelings. And I live my life this way, and usually in the end, it pays off. In the moment, it sometimes requires pain. Just like sometimes people really come at me online and they're like, they think because you predict something, that means that you absolutely love it. No, it's just a prediction. I was recently talking to a contractor. Okay, let me give you an example of this, Jim. The contractor said, Marcus, we're having huge success with AI setting appointments as soon as we get a lead. Now, this is a bigger company. They do over $30 million in revenue. Okay. And so as soon as a lead comes in, AI, boom, reaches out to the customer. Now, the second that AI reaches out to the customer and calls them, it gives them two options. It says, hey, you can set an appointment with AI to meet with your sales rep, or you can set the appointment through human. So you have the choice. Do I want to set my appointment by using a human? Do I want to set my appointment by using AI? Now, I'm not talking about the end appointment yet. I'm just talking about the process of setting the appointment. Now, take a guess on this, Jim. What percentage of people have work with AI to set their appointment versus working with a human? What do you think it is, if you had to make a guess?
I would guess 70-80% are choosing AI now.
You are exactly correct. 80% are choosing to work with the AI to set the appointment. Now, what we also know is every single day, more and more people are choosing to work with AI in customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if this is a precursor to anything, what do you think, folks, it means for sales? That is interesting, isn't it? And as somebody that has a sales training company, I'm definitely paying attention. Of course, I'm paying attention to this. I think it matters. I think it's very interesting. I think there's going to be some people that never want to work with AI. And I think there's going to be a group of people that want to work with AI. But here's why so many people choose to work with AI. And this is what needs to change about your salespeople. My daughter, who's 24, came to me recently and she said, Dad, I will always choose to work with AI at this point for customer service. Of course, now, by the way, she said this to me because she knows this is what I talk about. So my kids are making AI comments to me all the time. All right. And I said, why? And she said, because I never feel embarrassed with any question I'm asking AI. And this is the part that a lot of people don't understand, is homeowners are constantly hedging with salespeople. And they're too embarrassed to ask and say certain things because they fear judgment. Why do they fear it? Because they were previously judged by some salesperson. So you really have to be teaching your sales team right now to not be judgmental, looking, sounding, etc. You have to create truly a psychologically safe place where the homeowner feels like they can say exactly what's on their mind, their fear, their excitement, whatever it is. Then they're not going to be looked at like they're an idiot for asking the question. And this is exactly, the reason why, certain reps have had a lot of problems. And this is why so many are shifting over to using AI. Now, a lot of people say, well, I don't want to use AI because they're still thinking about, like stupid voice automation from the 2000s. That's a terrible UX. We have to stop thinking like that because now it's full-blown conversations. So this much I know, that within home improvement, there is no question that, and you can safely say within 12 to 24 months, it'll be very common for you to go on a home improvement website to say, I'd like to get a general estimate now, that you talk to a digital avatar, just like Jim and I on this pod right now are talking. We could be at the point where Jim, his avatar, is doing the interview, and I can't tell the difference in 24 months. And by the way, I think that's completely dystopian, and I don't like it.
It might be right now, Marcus.
It could be right now.
It could be right now.
And that's why you have that weird glitch, right? And so this is like, and again, I know some people are just like, this whole conversation is driving me crazy. Okay, so would you like to know about what's coming, or would you rather just do the head in the sand approach? Because me personally, I want to know about what's coming and where it's going. So the home improvement contractor is going to have a digital avatar. Maybe it does or doesn't look like you, if you're the proprietor or somebody on your team. And it has what looks to be like a Zoom conversation. That's the chat experience. The person gets all their questions answered by this digital avatar. Looks like they're having a human-to-human conversation. They're laughing. They're joking around, right? Person knows they're an AI. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I think you should let them know they're talking to an AI, of course. And then the homeowner says, well, could I get an estimate right now? AI says, sure. Yep, we can totally do that. And gives them a general estimate right now and says, now, of course, we're going to have to come out and confirm at your house that, these are all true. But here's your numbers as we're having this conversation. Now, once again, sounds crazy. So going to happen. Inevitable, Jim, inevitable. We're making digital avatar videos right now at River Pools, and they're close to being and my business partner is the face of them. His name's Jason Hughes. And we're doing these because we want to be able to create educational videos quickly at scale. And we're experimenting with it. And of course, for us next is chat. So once we really get down the video side of it, where it's not back and forth, then the tech will probably be about there to be able to have the real-time interactive, not glitchy chat experience with the digital avatar. And we're gonna be one of the first to put it in. Absolutely, positively going to happen. And will it work? We're going to find out. Yeah. I'm going to find out. I'm not going to sit there and tease it or say it's ridiculous or say that's silly. If it allows me to do things at scale, and if I'm always giving the homeowner a choice, and I think that's a big part of this, give the homeowner a choice. Would you rather this or this? Because at that point, you can't sit there and say you're ruining the industry. No, it's what the person wants. You're saying if you've got somebody that's like really nervous and doesn't trust, salespeople and, will only trust an AI. Okay. I'm going to send them an AI in that moment. I'm going to give them the option to talk to the AI. Whereas if you're only going to trust, a human, I'm going to give them the option to do that. So we're definitely going to go through a very, interesting period where there's going to be a hybrid approach if you're smart. I would not just make it a blanket force feed you to talk to the AI approach or force feed you to just talk to the human approach. I think it should be both, frankly, because again, I'm obsessed with what the market is asking for. They ask, you answer. Pretty simple concept. It goes beyond just the questions they ask about the product or the service.
Definitely. I think that this is the road. It's the frictionless experience. It's meeting your customers where they want to be met. Yep. Is what I'm hearing. This is to summarize some of the things, right? Give them the human experience when that's appropriate. Give them the AI experience when that's appropriate. What I think about looking backwards to see what's coming forward is that this is what we did with websites, right? Like It was the website was somewhere that they went instead of going to the yellow pages.
Yeah.
It provided people more information. It gave them better context to the company. Then Google reviews came around, and this thing has evolved. Then text messaging started, and people resisted text messaging, but text message open rates are much better than phone. How many people pick up the phone when you call them? And then, website chat and now all of that, like we can see what has happened in the past, and really I'd love your thoughts on this. It's really just the experience. It really feels to me like it's just the customer experience continues to improve, and those that are willing to put the work in and use what's available to them to create that customer experience will win. Who will win? What companies will win, and what companies will go away in the future?
The ones that will go away are the ones that are going to, stick their nose in the air, and they're going to say, well, I think that's ridiculous. I would never want to do it that way. And the ones that win are going to be completely obsessed with the buyer. And they're not going to say, well, I'm not going to do this because, this is bad for the human race. Sorry. Social media is bad for the human race. Yet you should have a Facebook page if you're a contractor. Okay. I mean, that's just where you should be. So we just got to get over that. You don't have to have your own personal account. Well, you kind of do. Facebook screws you there. Somebody's got to manage it. But my point is, you don't have to engage social media, but you do have to have a Facebook account in that regard. I would also give you, as general guidance to this, what I call the 3 F's of innovation. There's always, if you look at what we're talking about, everything that's happening, everything that does happen is going to be consistent with one of the 3 F's of innovation. Number 1, is it faster? Does it allow the prospect, the person, to take the action, to get the answer, to get what they want faster? Okay, so that's number 1 component. Number 2 component. Does it eliminate friction? Friction. Does it remove obstacles? So it coincides with number 1, but the further we go down this road of technology, the more we hate friction, the more we hate jumping through hoops, the more we hate obstacles. We have an abhorrence to things like when we're clicking on a navigation bar to a website and it says pricing, we're excited, and then we get to the page and it says fill out this form. We want to punch the screen at that point. It's a massive friction wall between us and what we thought we were going to get. So that's number 2 is friction. And then number 3 component of innovation is eliminate fear. Fear. So let me give you an example of this. When you have an estimator and someone is allowed to get a sense for roughly how much does this cost, you've just eliminated a major fear that they have. You've allowed them to get that answer faster than they would have. You remove the friction of them talking to a human to get the answer. Do you see? All 3 F's, one tool. That's why it works. That's why it's powerful. So if you're focused on the 3 F's, you are going to be very innovative. You're going to be ahead of the game, and allow that to be your guide.
Awesome, man. That's great advice. For everyone listening, man, this has been a great journey, and we'll continue the journey for you to bring you the best information to help you, succeed with your roofing business, to learn from the lessons of others. If you haven't, I see in the stats, a lot of you haven't liked and followed and shared. Just do that. And it's been a great journey, and we'll continue the journey here going forward. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.